A master mason barely earned 4 pennies a day, yet a single suit of Milanese plate armor could swallow 500 days of his labor, making it costlier than a modern Ferrari. In 15th century England, every clang of the forge and shuffle of coins echoed a brutal truth. Knighthood wasn't just a matter of courage or birth, but hard cash, so much that an elite warhorse's daily feed could eclipse a mason's wage. Just how did a medieval knight become a medieval one-percenter? And what did this eye-watering bill really buy? To answer that, we need to crack the money puzzle at the heart of chivalry itself. Picture a medieval counting table, coins clinking, merchants muttering, and a scribe's quill scratching out sums that could change a life. To unlock the cost of knighthood, you first have to speak the language of medieval money, a code that looks simple but hides a world of difference between rich and poor. In 15th century England, the entire economy ran on 3 core units: pounds, shillings, and pence. Here is the ladder. Each pound was worth 20 shillings, and each shilling was 12 pence. That means a single pound stacked up to 240 pence. No decimals, no rounding, just hard arithmetic day in and day out. The mark, another common unit, sat at 13 shillings and 4 pence, exactly 160 pence. Merchants and knights used marks for big purchases and legal contracts. But most people counted their world in pence. A penny was not just a coin. It was the baseline for everything. Bread, beer, labor, and even the daily feed for a warhorse. If you wanted to translate a medieval price into something you could feel in your pocket, you would break it down into pence, then measure it out in days or years of work. This is the math that made or broke fortunes: a mason's 4 pence for a day's sweat, a laborer's 2 pence for back-breaking toil. Every transaction, from a loaf of bread to a suit of armor, got filtered through this relentless conversion. So, when you hear that a knight's harness cost 2,000 pence, you are not just hearing a sticker price, you are hearing nearly 2 years of a master craftsman's life. That is the backbone of medieval economics, a world where every clang of the coin carried the weight of months, even years of labor. Step out onto a muddy lane in 15th century England, and you will find the real financial yardsticks for everything that mattered. At the bottom rung stands the common laborer, someone hired to dig ditches, haul stones, or thresh grain. His wage is 2 pence for a back-breaking day, the kind of coin you would spend on a loaf of bread, a pint of ale, or a handful of oats. Stack those days one after another, and you are looking at a yearly income barely scraping past 2 pounds. That is a lifetime spent chasing pennies, where a single pound is a windfall, and a few extra coins could mean the difference between hunger and a full belly. A step up is the master mason, no ordinary builder, but the craftsman trusted to set cathedral stones and oversee crews on the king's projects. His hands might earn him 4, sometimes 6 pence a day, and with steady work he could bring home 5 or 6 pounds in a good year. That is 3 times what a laborer makes, but even for him, every silver penny counts. The mason's wage is a measuring stick for what it meant to be skilled, respected, and just barely comfortable in a world ruled by scarcity. Then there is the mounted archer, the backbone of England's armies. 6 pence for a day in the saddle, risking life and limb at Agincourt or on the Welsh border. He might see 9 pounds in a year, enough to make a laborer stare in awe, but still far from the wealth needed to join the armored elite. These numbers are not just statistics, they are the scaffolding of medieval life. Every price, every ambition, every dream of rising higher was built on the daily grind of earning those coins. When you see what a knight's armor or warhorse cost, remember, for most, even a single pound was a year's hope in a leather purse. Now, for the first real sticker shock. The bill for a single suit of knight's armor. Picture: Sir John Cressy in 1441. standing at a Milanese workshop, signing off on a purchase that would make even a modern car dealer blink. The invoice reads £8, 6 shillings, and 8 pence, exactly 2,000 medieval pennies. What does that mean in human terms? For a master mason earning 4 pence a day, this one harness swallows up 500 days of skilled labor. That's nearly 2 years of sweat, stone, and scaffolding, just for the right to walk onto the battlefield dressed like a tank. This wasn't a simple pile of iron. Milanese armor was the Formula One of its day. Precision-tempered steel, custom-fitted to every joint, designed to turn aside arrows and lances without slowing a knight on foot or horseback. The raw metal was only a small part of the price, about 10%, according to metallurgist Alan Williams. The other 90% is pure human expertise, weeks, sometimes months, of hammering, shaping, and polishing in a forge that ran day and night. Apprentices and masters worked side by side, each rivet and hinge a testament to the hours poured in. Converted to modern terms, Cressy's suit would set you back around $125,000, enough for a new Ferrari, and that's before adding the horse, weapons, or any of the extras. No wonder knights were rare. This was the first barrier. Before you could even think about the battlefield, you had to buy your way into the armored elite. Now brace yourself for the real financial knockout, the knight's warhorse. Not just any horse. A destrier bred and trained for battle, the medieval equivalent of a Formula One car crossed with a tank. The going rate for a solid destrier in 15th century England was £40. That is 9,600 pence, enough to hire a master mason for 2,400 days, or nearly 8 years of skilled labor. Put another way, buying a warhorse cost more than 3 full suits of Milanese armor. In modern terms, you are looking at a $600,000 animal, and that is before you have even put a saddle on its back. But the real shock is not the purchase price, it is the daily drain. Feeding and stabling a destrier swallowed up 6 or 7 pence every single day. That is more than a master mason earned for a day's work. Imagine your car burning through a full paycheck every time you start the engine, even if you never leave the driveway. For most people, even inheriting a warhorse would be financial ruin. The horse eats, the horse needs care, and the meter never stops running. No wonder knights were rare. Owning a destrier was like buying a Ferrari and then discovering the gas costs more than your mortgage. Stack up the receipts, and the numbers start to look almost unreal. The bare minimum starter kit for a knight, armor, warhorse, riding horse, weapons, and gear clocked in at around £41. That is not just a pile of coins, it is a financial wall. For a common laborer scraping by at 2 pence a day, this kit cost more than 20 years of back-breaking work. Even a master mason, respected and skilled, would need nearly 8 years of steady wages to afford it, and that is assuming he never spent a penny on food, rent, or family. The math does not stop there. Parliament and the Crown kept raising the bar. The knight's fee, the legal minimum annual income needed to qualify as a knight, doubled from £20 to £40 between the 13th and 15th centuries. Suddenly, knighthood was not just about courage or birth. It came down to whether your estate could cough up the cash. The gate was locked by arithmetic. Most people in medieval England could work a lifetime and never even see £40, let alone spend it on armor and horses. The numbers became a barrier, quietly deciding who got to ride into battle, gleaming like a legend, and who stayed behind, counting pennies. Here is the final, almost unbelievable twist. A knight's price tag did not stop at armor and horses. Every knight was expected to bring a small army with him, a lance usually 6 to 9 men strong. This was not just a medieval entourage for show. Each lance included a squire, armed and armored, who needed his own horse and gear. Outfitting that squire could add another 10 to 16 pounds to the bill. More than 2 years of a craftsman's wages just for the knight's right-hand man. And the costs kept multiplying. Pages, archers, and light cavalry all needed equipment, horses, and daily bread. The knight was responsible for all of it. Lose a destrier in battle, and £40 was gone in an instant. Lose a squire, and his gear alone could bankrupt a minor landowner. Some landholders took one look at these numbers and decided to pay a tax called scutage instead, essentially buying their way out of military service because the math just did not add up. When you stack up the true costs, armor, horses, squire, retinue, replacements, knighthood became less about birth or bravery and more about the cold, hard arithmetic of wealth. By the late 15th century, only about 1% of adult men in England could clear these hurdles. The knight was not just a warrior, he was the medieval 1%. Locked behind a paywall of silver and sweat few could ever hope to breach. For every knight flashing in the sun, 1,000 hands toiled in fields and forges, because the price of glory was measured in shillings, not stories. Today, wealth still shapes who rides at the front. Medieval economics remind us luxury and power have always shared the same currency. Share your thoughts below.